An American arbitrator, and by the way, we have found out that this is in fact legally binding. It's not a court order, but a court could enforce it such a way that there would be a distinction without really a difference. In any case, an arbitrator has ruled in favor of Deontay Wilder that Tyson Fury must face him again before September 15th. Now, they can pick the location, they can pick the date, as long as it's all within that parameter, they have some degree of flexibility. So Top Rank, who is in charge essentially of Tyson Fury, they have said, you know what, we're not even going to pay Deontay Wilder to go away. We're just going to book that fight between Wilder and Fury 3. We'll do it somewhere in July, perhaps at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. We're not going to pay him to go away. Others still think that paying him to go away might be something in play. Alexander Usyk came out before the show and I guess had a message on social media wanting some cash, although he might end up getting an Anthony Joshua fight. Okay, BC, we got to go to you first on this. I've set up the basic details here. This does seem like really big news. Now, it's not necessarily all bad news, but it's not necessarily all good news. Give me your sense of how important this is and what's going to happen next.
First of all, this is so boxing. This is so boxing. I've been on this show every episode for the last 3 months being like, Fury Joshua was one of the biggest fights of our lifetime. I want it so badly, but I'm sick of waiting for all the details to get ironed out. All these false reports of we got a verbal agreement, but we still got to wait for the site money and both sides to sign. All this BS. I was like, make the fight. I think they came as close as they could come to making the fight. And then this comes out of left field. So here's the crux of it in my eyes. And I don't know all the information because, one, I don't have a legal background, and two, I don't have access to all these documents. But all along, we have heard Bob Arum, the co-promoter of Tyson Fury with Top Rank and obviously the connection to ESPN, say, look, we've gone over the documents, and from our perspective, that third fight guaranteed between Fury and Wilder, because Team Wilder waited too long to kick it in, and because of the pandemic last year and all that, it's expired. They have no legal recourse. Everything's fine. So I can't figure out here, Luke, if this was a monster misstep from Arum, other co-promoter Frank Warren, from even the controversial Daniel Kinahan, who's an advisor to Fury through MTK Global. If this is a major fuck up from them to not realize that it wasn't 100% and that now that they're going to have to get burned for it, or if this is some kind of like Hail Mary in legality terms that won for Wilder. And I know that, the comments from Arum saying he was as shocked as he ever was that the arbiter ruled in favor of Wilder. Well, whoever's right, whoever's wrong, this is wild. I think there's actually more good news than people realize here, okay? Are we going to get Fury Joshua next? It doesn't look like it. So yeah, there's some lamentable stuff there. You want both to be undefeated. Well, they're not undefeated. Joshua's already lost, so that's already out there. But you want both of them to be at the peak of their powers. Bring all 4 belts in there. Heck, do it in England, which I've been saying forever, but Saudi Arabia came in because of the site fee and the pandemic and all that. But we may actually be okay in the meantime, because the one thing this has done has speeded up the process of getting through the hurdles that everyone involved will need to get through to actually make the fight they wanted to make, which was Fury Joshua. And let me explain this. You mentioned the potential of a step-aside fee. And Frank Warren, Fury's co-promoter, came out and said, we don't want to pay Wilder more than $20 million. Well, then that didn't last long, because Wilder's new trainer, former heavyweight Malik Scott, a guy who got knocked out by Wilder in the past, they're good friends, he came out and said, look, Wilder's not taking step-aside money from anybody. He wants Fury, he wants the fight, and he's coming back for blood, and he's coming back for vengeance, And Luke, to me, I don't know. I kind of like that narrative. I kind of like the idea, even though I want Fury versus Joshua more than anyone else does. If you're telling me to get to that, we're going to rush in Wilder Fury 3 with a Wilder who's now had more than a year off, is angry, is coming back ready to attack and be volatile, and has a chance to ruin this for everybody. To me, that's good theater. Give me Wilder Fury 3. And on the flip side, if they're going to enforce this mandatory of where Anthony Joshua has to fight unbeaten Alexander Usyk, the former undisputed cruiserweight champion who finally made that big heavyweight step up against Chisora and looked good in a close fight and won it, I kind of really love that fight too. If it all leads to an end game in which the winners of 2 fights fight each other for that undisputed championship, let's say early next year, then to me, that's a win, right? Because we're still going to find out what we want to find out. Who's the best heavyweight of them all? Can we get a one-name one champion, one division, undisputed dream. All of that's great. But it's not lost on me, Luke, that A, this is still boxing and this is embarrassing that we're going through the soap opera, and B, that perfect dream scenario I just threw in there and said, well, it's not all that bad. Check this out. That could get screwed up too, because this is boxing, right, at the end of the day. But look, I don't hate Fury Wilder 3 as much as everyone else. I think that's really my biggest point. It's embarrassing. It's a joke. It's so ridiculous. But it still may be okay in the end, Luke. Okay? That's really my biggest
It's
takeaway.
weird. It's like, you ever had that friend or maybe a relative or maybe a significant other, just somebody in your life who gave you gifts, who were perennially not listening to what you actually asked for when they asked you what you wanted for your birthday or for Christmas, because you don't want to be a dick about it, right? They went through the whole process of trying to find something. They thought about it. They spent their hard-earned money. They presented it to you. Like, it's still a nice gesture no matter what. And hey, even if they didn't exactly give you what you asked for, sometimes they can give you something that's actually pretty cool you might find some use for. That's really what boxing is in my life. Boxing is like the person who gives me gifts I didn't really ask for, and then the ones I did ask for, I don't really tend to get by and large, but I can't complain because doing that would be a spoiled thing to do. Like, dude, you're right. Let's say Joshua ends up fighting Usyk. I don't think that will happen, but let's just say that he does. Is that the worst fight in the world? Far from it. Deontay Wilder 3 against Tyson Fury, is that the fight that I want to see next? No, it's not the fight that I want to see next. Is it the worst in the world? No, because A, your point is no matter who wins among these four, the eventual winners will fight each other, and then that will be probably, the winners may end up fighting each other, and then that would tell us who the world's most dominant heavyweight is.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how it's all going to play out, but there's also some risk, dude. Like, what if Wilder probably won't win? I would not bet on him to win, but dude, like, is it out of the question that a guy who was a historic puncher could cause an upset? No, it definitely is not. That's a real thing. On the other side, Usyk didn't exactly dazzle at heavyweight, but he dazzled a shitload at cruiserweight, and maybe a fight against Joshua, if they make it, he could play spoiler. You could get a lot of really topsy-turvy results here. So it's frustrating that the only thing I don't like, BC, it's not that we're getting what we're getting. The only thing I don't like is what you referred to at the beginning of your answer before, which is how many months have we sat here and we've been performed on like Chinese water torture of it's coming, it's almost there, Fury Joshua, it's going to be Saudi Arabia, huge fight burst, and every week it's just one more battering you and you're like, okay, where is it? And then all of a sudden, yank. Dude, I feel like something's a little off here. Not with the arbitrator being paid off or something. I don't mean that. What I mean is, do we really believe that Bob Arum had no idea the arbitrator was going to do this? I have a hard time believing that. Or that they made this grand announcement right before, not announcement, but suggestion anyway, right before the arbitrator finally decided in Wilder's favor. Something seems off about it to me, one way or the other, but I guess we're going to get what the hell we're going to get.
Look, history would tell you you're right for assuming that, because there's been a lot of shenanigans and this type of stuff, so I wouldn't doubt it. But I guess, to re-clarify or sum up my whole point is what we really want in this Renaissance era of I don't want to say historically great heavyweights, because, again, they have to prove that by fighting each other. Fury looks like a historically great heavyweight to me. But, again, he's got to prove it by beating, Joshua and really stamping that down. But at least we have fun guys who seemingly have wanted to fight each other, and we have a structure in place that even though we can't get people like Crawford and Spence in the ring together, we have already gotten Wilder and Fury together in the ring twice, including one time when they were at completely polar opposite ends of the promotional and network scape. So that's all good news. What we want in this Renaissance era is for them to fight each other and do it often. So again, if the fallout of losing Fury AJ right now speeds up that process, and now we suddenly have two really interesting matchups to get excited for rather than one, I'm into that. But we also do have to take into account, in terms of the timing, that it goes back to what we said to open the show. Like, the world's just starting to open up again in certain pockets. I know the numbers aren't great everywhere, but, we're starting now where Allegiant Stadium with 80,000 people is a possibility, right? Jerry World, where we just saw Canelo with 73,000, is a possibility. I would much rather see AJ versus Fury, and this is no disrespect to Saudi Arabia, in a giant stadium like London's Wembley Stadium with a packed to the gills emotional, crazy crowd, rather than I would want to see them collect $150 million in the middle of the desert just to put the fight on under COVID, right? So it may all work out in the end, Luke, and maybe the opening up of the world will help this, where we had to sit through this ridiculous delay because a fight that big, you're not going to put it on unless you can get a giant crowd or somebody giving you stupid money. It looked like they got close to somebody giving them stupid money, but now, look, at the end of the day, I just want to see great fights. It seems we're going to get that no matter what. And Luke, I am really, seriously, not out on the idea that Deontay Wilder is a very serious live dog if they do end up speeding up a trilogy fight against Fury like July. Like, that's like right around the corner. Because, Luke, Wilder obviously has the outpunch of a lifetime, where it doesn't matter how many mistakes he makes, he can win the fight. But this is kind of a perfect storm where he got embarrassed on a level we never could have imagined somebody that elite could. Not just that he was stopped in a one-sided fight in which his corner threw in the towel, but that there were so many excuses around it, and everything Wilder said publicly made him look awful. That time away has to have rebuilt a dangerous energy inside of him. Does it mean he took all that time and became a better boxer? We're not going to know until he gets in the ring. But he could really ruin everyone's plans in such a destructive way. And what's one thing you and I said immediately after the second Fury-Wilder fight? This whole idea that, look, it looks like Fury's the better fighter by far. I don't think we need a third fight. But if Wilder could decide, I'm not playing for 12 rounds, I'm not going to counterpunch, I'm going to attack this guy with everything I have and make it as dangerous a fight early as I can, that's insane theater. The videos I've seen, the language coming out of Malik Scott, his new trainer, that's telling me this is kind of in play. So storyline-wise, Luke, I love the idea of Wilder going after retribution. This isn't a life-changing fight to Fury. For Fury, this would be a fight I would have to do if I'm him just to get the fight I actually want. There's danger in that, Luke, when you're not as dialed in terms of, like, I need to get through this fight for all the right reasons. So I'm into that freaking storyline. Believe me, dude. But we could sit here also and laugh at boxing for just being boxing. I mean, this is a joke.
I mean, I admire your. This is why you're a boxing fan, because you have this sort of endless optimism about what it ultimately turns out, and sometimes it turns out just true beauty and joy. But what I mean to say is, it's funny. Like in MMA, they can't make the big fights because there is a lot of injury, or there's no co-promotion, right? It really usually prevents it. None of those things really exist in the same kind of way in boxing, but yet, because the fighters there are so empowered and have so much control over their career, they find ways to insert clauses, whether they're rematch clauses or arbitration clauses or some kind of way to protect their interests, and it has a way of just delaying what you're actually looking for. It's kind of funny in that regard. Listen, I think your optimism could be one. Listen, who the fuck knows what's going to happen? Your optimism could be 100% on the money. Is it also possible, BC, and I think you would agree with this, just as a rational observer, I don't know that this is the likeliest scenario, but it's worth thinking about the fact that Fury could go in there and stomp on him, and this was a giant waste of our time. Sure. Or Joshua could lose to Usyk, and then the whole shit gets turned upside down. Like, it's just dude, this was a weird reorientation of the ship into new seas, and I don't know if they're choppy, I don't know if they're smooth, I don't know where it's headed, but it's a new course to be sure. Buckle in is what I would say.
Yeah, and believe me, you have to lie to yourself and be an eternal optimist to stay to stay at this insane. And all us hardcores in boxing, we know this feeling. You got to keep that up, if you're going to stay the course, because then when you get the fights and they're amazing and they change your life. I mean, look, I still think about Wilder Fury 1 in 2018 in Los Angeles when I stood up at the end of the fight and my pants were soaked, and not because I soiled myself, because I was sweating with so much drama and intensity. I mean, that's only what super heavyweight boxing could do at the highest level. I mean, Fury Joshua would have locked up the championships, though, Luke, in that 2-fight series, probably for over a year. So again, optimism-wide, if we speed up the process and get the best to fight the best, maybe get Dillian White in there, I don't know. Worst case scenario? I mean, what is the worst case scenario? Usyk upsets AJ and gets stuck in a rematch with him. Fury Wilder fight to another controversial draw. I mean, there's a lot of bad case scenarios here, Luke. I'm not trying to be rosy tomorrows on you completely, but yeah, we'll see what happens.
I guess we're gonna see. Here's what I don't expect. Arum was trying to suggest that he could make Fury Wilder 3 in July, maybe August, and that they could do Fury Joshua 3, or sorry, what am I saying? Fury Joshua 1 in November or December. Even if Deontay loses again, let's say he loses badly or quickly, like no big deal. Do you really believe that Fury would fight twice, that they could make those two fights in the same calendar year? I'm not saying it's impossible, but I do find that unlikely.
As long as he doesn't take damage, it's much more possible against Wilder, and that's a great what-if, right? Because, again, Wilder could lose every second of the fight and still floor him or knock him out. But I do think, because it's Fury, Luke, I'd give this a much better chance, because here is a guy, Luke, who, let's not forget, has been so up and down throughout his career in terms of putting forth the best version of himself. That's why between the first and second Wilder fights, I thought it was potentially dangerous for Fury, given his issues in the past with substance abuse, mental health issues, to take so much time off and build up with two, gimme comeback fights first. Because that's not, like we've seen Fury play down to the level of his competition and come in fat many times. I think he's actually at his best when he's active. I mean, Conor McGregor's not too, different in that regard, when he's very active and tuned in and mentally focused. So in the end, Luke, knowing that the third Wilder fight and the potential of a first fight against AJ are two life-changing purses put together, right? I could see Fury being dialed in for that, and as long as he isn't hurt, turning that around relatively quick. I don't fear that as much. I fear more for everyone involved that Wilder is going to be so much more dangerous than they even realize with this much time off to be this angry.
I'm less convinced, but can't say you're wrong. Certainly cannot say you're wrong. I just don't know either. I guess we're going to have to see, but what a hell of a situation. Jesus Christ. So,
I mean, that's
any idea on when? Like, is there a deadline? Well, I guess there's no deadline. The only deadline is September 15th. Like, is there any other deadline they have to reach before what do you know about how quick? This is my question. How quickly can they make a Wilder Fury 3 fight?
We can go on the reporting of what's out there. Dan Raphael, who works for himself now with Fight Freaks Unite, his subscription newsletter, I saw some reporting from him where he said even that September date from the arbiter is still up for negotiation within all parties. So look, if you're Fury and Frank Warren and Bob Arum, I think you still go down the road as much as you possibly can of what's Wilder's price. What could we possibly offer him? I think the problem here is that Fury versus AJ originally, Luke, was going to be a 2-fight deal. So that was going to lock them up. Well, we don't know within the grounds of that deal, was that $150 million site fee from Saudi Arabia for 2 fights, for 1 fight? We don't know all those details. If it's $150 million and they got a lot to work with here, I mean, let's take that into account. Anthony Joshua got a $60 million site fee guarantee for the Ruiz matchup, which was like stupid money. This is, more than double that. Does Deontay Wilder have a number? I mean, a stupid, life-changing number. Think 25, 30 million, where he would step aside if contractually he was guaranteed to fight the winner this calendar year. AJ and Fury couldn't have a rematch, right? It would have to be Wilder next. Despite even what Malik Scott is saying publicly, I do wonder, everybody's got a price for the $1 million man. Does Wilder have one? I think that's the first course of duty. Or if not, could you in some way negotiate that September date and push that out a bit, maybe to like December, and say, okay, we're going to give Wilder his fight next, but it's not going to get in the way of this super fight unless Fury would to lose, right? I wonder. And I know there's also the Usyk mandatory situation. A lot of people are going to get paid. If we're getting Fury AJ this calendar year, Luke, a lot of people are going to get rich because of it that aren't in that fight. So, it's a wait and see. It really is. It's a wait and see. We have no idea until the legal course takes its duty. But, Luke, I don't know anything about law. I'm not sure you do, but I know there are people going, who cares what Wilder wants? Can't they just do this fight anyway and just pay the legal fees afterwards?
No.
I would guess no, Luke. I would guess that they would be.
No, the answer is no. They could get a court to enforce it to the point where there could be like criminal sanctions involved. Now, how serious are those? I don't know, but there is a way. Yes, there is a way for the American justice system to make this to reject it makes it more than it's worth. You just kind of have to go along with it. So here we go. We're going to see what happens.
Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Cyborg! Mixed martial arts legend Chris Cyborg looks to cement her incredible legacy with her relentlessly aggressive style. In a war with top contender Leslie Smith, fighting to stake her claim for Bellator Gold.
This is war.
Bellator MMA Live, Friday, May 21st on Showtime, where warriors rule.